I feel like my baby hairs are literally taking on a life of their own these days. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be sharing with you all of my tips and tricks for matching your foundation shade online, because who has not struggled with that? So in the UK where I live, we do not have Sephoras, and there are very few places, if you live outside of London, which I do, that you can go and try lots of high-end foundations. And let's face it, those are the ones that we do not want to make a mistake on because the price is high. I am very, very used to ordering my foundations online, and yes, I have absolutely got it wrong. For years I've got it wrong, got very, very frustrated, but I have really built a system which I found so effective, and I feel like more and more now that I've got my tips and tricks and I've got my system in place, I'm getting it like spot on every time these days. So I really wanted to share all the steps, which there is, you know, it's a bit of work, but I think it's worth it. So bear with me. So the first thing you really need to know before trying to choose a foundation online is your undertone. So this means, are you warm, are you cool, or are you neutral? Cool means you have like more of a pinky, cooler undertone to your skin. Warm means you have a more yellow or olive undertone, and neutral means you have both or a mixture or somewhere in between the two. So you really need to know which one of those you are, or which one you are closest to, in order to have a chance of picking the right foundation shade. Now, I will link below the most comprehensive video I have seen of trying to decide which of those undertones your skin is if you are unsure. Stephanie did an amazing, very in-depth video, and that is how I fully came to understand what my undertone was. If you don't know your undertone, I will link that below. But the two quick tips I can offer you right now are to look at the veins in your wrist. And you must do this in natural daylight. Do not do it under lights or indoor lighting. Do it in natural daylight. If they are blue or purple, then you are cool toned. If your veins appear green or olive, then you are warm toned. If you are neutral, they might be a blue-green mix, or you might get a mixture of all of those colors in your wrist. Second best indicator of your undertone, and the way that I found easiest to resonate with me understanding my own undertone, is how your skin reacts to the sun. So if you tan very easily, you rarely burn, then you will be warm toned. If you literally look at the sun and you're catching a burn or getting some red shoulders, you are likely cool toned. And again, somewhere in between, you will be neutral toned. And there are lots of other ways to do with like jewelry and eye color and hair color and things like that that are a bit more of a vague area. But those for me are the two ways that give you a more solid idea of what your undertone is. Once you know your undertone, you then need to know what your skin tone is. Are you fair, the fairest of the fair? Are you always picking the very lightest foundation shade available? Are you light? Are you light to medium? Are you medium? Are you a bit tanned? Are you deep? Are you dark deep? You have the very deepest skin tone. Are you always picking the deepest foundation shade? Once you have those two bits of information, that is your starting point. For me, I will always look for the description that says light medium with yellow or warm undertones. I am not a strong yellow undertone, I am much more olive, but you often do not see an olive description. That is very rare, especially in the light to medium category. You might see them more in the tanned categories, but in the light to medium, it will generally say warm. Try not to judge off other people's skin tone that you see in photos or here on YouTube, because quite often that can be distorted by lenses, by filters even that some YouTubers use, and certainly by lots of lights. It can be very deceptive. So don't think that someone looks the same shade as you. That will definitely be your shade of foundation. That can be really misleading. The next thing to do is to find any foundations you know of that you have used before, that you have in your collection, that are very good matches for you, and keep a little list of those foundations and build it up. What you can do with that list is to go onto foundation matrices like Foundation or the Temptalia Foundation Matrix. So both of those websites, which again I will link down below, have a little tool on them where you can input a foundation that matches you well, and then select the foundation you're trying to find your shade in, and it will tell you what the closest shade is to your existing match. The more matches you have, the better the information you're giving to that tool to give you your best match in the foundation you want to find your shade in. The other place to look for information about shades and how close they are is Pinterest. So lots of people will put on Pinterest lots of swatches of foundations. This is an example of someone who posted on Pinterest a load of Fenty swatches. So they've put up sort of, what is that, 5 shades of Fenty foundation all next to each other so you can kind of see how close they are and what they look like on skin. You could also often find people who have posted like this post here, where the swatches on this arm are all different brands of foundation and their corresponding shades. So you can see on here, she has put the MAC Studio Fix Fluid in NC25 and she's put Fenty in 240 underneath, and you can see they're a very close match. All you need to do is go onto Pinterest, search for the foundation brand and shade that you're looking for, and you'll get lots of images, hopefully with some comparisons that you might be aware of, that you might own, that will give you a bit of a better idea of what the liquid actually looks like on skin and in comparison to some of the foundations that you know better or that are easier for you to go and swatch. For example, you can go into your local shop and you might be able to swatch all of the L'Oreal True Match. So if you can see a live comparison of the True Match foundations and you can go and get yourself a match in that one quite easily in store, then you'll be able to work out your Fenty foundation, for example. If you don't have any foundations in your collection that currently really match you very well, you've never been able to find a good match, go and get matched a counter somewhere like MAC where they have a very big shade range. It's always really handy to know your MAC foundation shade because most people know their MAC foundation shade, and you will often get people asking on foundation reviews, what's your MAC shade, so that the person reviewing can let you know what the comparative shade is in MAC. So it's always really useful to know that information, and you can always go and find a MAC counter fairly easily in most places. You don't have to buy the foundation, you can be given a free sample of the foundation so that you can try it and really make sure in daylight that it works for you. And go back again, if you're not happy with the shade they match you to, go back and try again until you're happy, and then you know that you'll have at least one foundation shade that you know of that is a really good match for you, and you can then build your list from there. Next thing I quite often do is use Sephora's website. Now, I don't order from Sephora. You can actually order from Sephora in the UK, but there's often not really a need to, and with shipping and everything, it's often not worth it. But I do regularly use Sephora for information when I'm trying to pick a foundation shade online because they have a very good amount of information on that website. For example, here is the Fenty foundation on the Sephora website. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see this, but I have selected shade 190, and up here it gives you a description of what shade 90 is, which is a light to medium shade with neutral undertones. So as we have already worked out what our undertone is and what our skin tone is, we just need to play around with the shades and see what the description is for each of the shades, and then we'll know which one fits our description. You can see they also often have swatches on all different undertones and all different skin tones of all of the foundation shades. And with the Fenty one, they also show a picture of a model wearing that shade of foundation that you have selected. So I will often go onto Sephora and just read through all of the information and check. They also have a lot more reviews than we will ever get in the UK on our makeup websites. So you can read again through the reviews and see lots of times people in the reviews will say, oh, I'm an NC25 in MAC and I got this shade and it's a perfect match. So often you can get hints and tips from other people's reviews who are really helpful by mentioning what their shade matches are. The next thing I'll often do if I've got images of models wearing the foundation or I've got swatches of the foundation but I'm just not sure which one is the closest to my skin tone, is I ask my husband and I ask my mum or I ask my best friend, which one of these models' skin tone do you think looks closest to mine? Because it's often very hard to be objective and to envision your own face because you can't really look at both at the same time, whereas someone looking at you, you can hold up the picture next to your face and be like, does this look like me? And it's often much easier, and I've found my mum was actually staying with me when the Huda foundation came out, and I was going to pick like a shade 3 or 4 darker than my own skin because I was just wishful thinking that I still had a tan, and she was like, no, that one is much more like you, and literally the shade was perfect when it arrived. So clearly she was able to see it much more objectively and much easier which shade looked most like me from looking at me rather than me through a mirror or me seeing what I wanted to see. In the US, it's actually very easy and very acceptable to return makeup even if it's been used, so make sure you at least try and at least give it a go to send it back to see if they will give you a refund or give you at least an exchange for another shade. I'd also say that although it's not advertised, although it's not as common and it is accepted, I guess, in the UK, I have done it. I have taken back foundations before that have not matched me, and been allowed to exchange them for another shade. So I did it with my Clinique foundation because I went in, the lady shade matched me and it was really wrong, the shade. So I took it, I literally used it once, took it back, and I said, I was very honest, I said, I've used it once, I was matched to this shade last week, it is totally the wrong shade for me, can I change it for a different shade? And they, absolutely no problem, they did it straight away. So again, even though in the UK it's not as common, we're not as used to doing it, if you don't ask, you don't know. And I don't, you know, they're not gonna kick you out the shop. All they're gonna do is like say, sorry, we can't exchange makeup that's been used. That's the worst thing that's gonna happen. Give it a try. Then worst case scenario, you've bought a very expensive foundation online that does not match you, it is not workable, it is never gonna match you, it doesn't match anyone you know who wants to buy it off of you. What I've been doing recently is selling my foundations that I have used once for a review and do not want to keep or do not like, or they are not quite my right shade, and after I've reviewed them, I'm not gonna use them again. I've been selling them on eBay. I really wasn't sure if anyone would buy them or trust me, you know, that the foundation was real or that it had only been used once, but I have sold all of my unused foundations and really been able to recuperate quite a lot of money that otherwise was just gonna sit in my drawer. If you really cannot take it back and you really cannot use it, you cannot make it work, then it may be worth doing that and just being really honest. If you've only used it once, you know, a foundation is not like a lipstick, it will have not touched your skin, so it is quite hygienic in that way. You know, anything left in the bottle has never come out of the bottle, has never touched your face, and people clearly are willing to buy them. Most of mine I sold for about 2/3 the original price. I actually sold one of my foundations for the same price I bought it for because the shade that I had was sold out online. So it's really worth giving that a go if there really is nothing else you can do to make that foundation work and there's no one you know who wants to buy it off of you and you can't return it. Give that a go. You never know. At least that way you might get some of your money back to put towards buying your correct shade. So I really hope you found that helpful, and some of these tips are going to help you be more successful at matching yourself online in the future. If you have any questions, as always, ask me down below. Let's help each other out with any more tips we can think of. And as always, make sure you subscribe and like this video before you go so I can see you again. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye.